Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Blue Please on CynicalBrit.com, aka Broken Please, with myself, Total Biscuit. Got a very special guest for you in the virtual Broken studio today. Goes by the name of Kevin Michael Johnson. He is the lead producer on a brand new documentary that's going to be coming out fairly soon, we hope. It goes by the name of The Raid. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, TB. It's good to be here.
Excellent. Fantastic. So let's get some questions out. And what we'll tell you guys is that you can ask some questions of your own in the IRC channel. Drop us a line. irc.quakenet.org. That's hash or pound CynicalBrit. Alternatively, I'll open up the email box as well. Drop me an email to themurloc@gmail.com. That is themurloc@gmail.com if you have a question for this fellow. And, of course, we'll be plugging the website and giving you a link to the video as it stands at the moment at the end of the show. So, Kevin, let's talk a little bit about yourself specifically. Give us a little bit of an introduction. Who is Kevin Michael Johnson?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I'm an actor by passion. Actually, I live here in New York City. I've been pursuing that for the last couple years. And it's been good. Done a lot of, shows, a lot of stage productions, short films, commercials, that type of stuff. Actor by passion, but someone thoroughly interested and intrigued by technology and the way it affects social culture, which has certainly led me to this particular project right here. And I'm pretty excited about it.
Excellent. Fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about the production and, more accurately, your motivation for this. Why create The Raid?
Yeah, as I was saying, I'm thoroughly fascinated by technology and the way that it impacts the social world around us. And certainly we're seeing, after having the internet upon us for the last decade or so, however long it's been now, it's had a huge impact. Certainly in the way we do business, but also in the way we entertain ourselves. And what's the reason for the film? I think there's, as we're getting more and more involved and more into these sort of social experiences online, the generation prior to, I should say, the video game generation, just the distance and the gap between the understanding of that particular generation and the generation that's coming after it is just widening ever so vastly. So I think this film is an attempt to create some level of common ground between a generation that might not fully understand exactly what's happening in an experience like an MMO, one, for instance, like World of Warcraft. Trying to establish a platform for a dialogue that portrays an experience, elaborates on why that experience is, number one, interesting, number two, entertaining, and even important in the future of the world and business and so forth. So, yeah, a desire to basically create a clear picture of an experience that is often hidden and not easily understood by someone who hasn't had an experience with it.
Indeed, that's a rather lofty goal there. How do you intend to achieve that exactly? Obviously, putting it online seems to me like it might be a little bit of preaching to the choir, don't you think?
Yeah, you're right. It is a bit of a hurdle. In fact, figuring out how to get that in front of a community that doesn't spend their time online, that really is tricky. And for me, of course, the lofty goal and the grand goal would be to somehow be able to get this run at some point on either network television or in some sort of theatrical release, some sort of bigger version of what I'm trying to do. But how do we accomplish it? How do we create that story? I think we do that in a couple of ways. One is actually showing the experience from within the game engine, ideally, showing the excitement of it, the energy of it, trying to capture it from all angles. So that means from within the game engine, but also through live cameras while people are playing, through recording of event conversation, coordination and timing of a raid at work, and of course editing that in such a way that it's palatable and interesting. And then along with that, sitting with raiders, people who do this and dedicate their time toward this type of thing, sitting with them and asking them questions about, why do they prioritize this experience the way they do? How exactly does it fit within their real lives, like what do they value about the experience? Essentially, what is the value of a digital achievement for them, and why is it important in their lives? Essentially, what is the social world experience like for them? So yeah, sitting with them in one-on-one interviews, and then along with sitting with players, ideally sitting with people who are a little more, I guess you would call them meta thinkers on MMOs in general and the future of gaming. Sitting with some people who are experts in that field and asking the bigger questions like, what will this look like in 10 years? Why is it important in today's world? How will it change? Asking some of those bigger picture questions, which, would hopefully, again, stir some dialogue or some intrigue on the matter.
Excellent. So you mentioned the social value of raiding there. Do you feel that there even is a social value when your players aren't actually in the same room?
Gosh, TB, I think that's a terrific question. And in some ways, I think even as a director of this film is one I'm asking myself. And I think even is one that our culture is asking at the moment, which is why I think I find this film so provocative, is it's a new thing for us. I mean, it's not that new given the internet, but coming to a broader grasp of its meaning is kind of new. Yes, we're seeing people saying that, yes, this is a social experience. I spend, 30 hours a week with this particular group of people. I know where they live. I know their families. I know their struggles. I know, I can tell you when their birthdays are. We're seeing these types of experiences where people have intimate knowledge, lengthy, extensive relationships with individuals over time through the internet, yet without any kind of physical interaction. And those to me are provocative questions. What is the value of a relationship like that? I don't know that I know the answer to those questions. I think that's one our culture in particular is still trying to figure out as a whole. I think there certainly are meaningful. You see, especially with rating, you see social responsibility. You have a time to be there, to show up, and if you don't show up, this group of people they're kind of counting on you. So you see a lot of very complicated social tasks and interactions at work in an experience like this. So yeah, I mean, my instinct is to say absolutely, there's incredible value here. Lasting friendships are built through this. It's a new type of experience and it's a new type of thing. So certainly it's understandable that it might come under some sort of criticism or critical eye by the greater world. But again, I think it's just something we need to dialogue more about and kind of come to a new understanding of what exactly this type of social relationship is. And so yeah, I think those are huge questions that I'd like to look at with this film, for sure.
Fantastic. So you mentioned an interesting point that I think a lot of our listeners may have experienced at some point, that, yes, raiding does involve a degree of social responsibility and particularly personal schedule. Yeah? You have to dedicate a certain amount of time at a certain point in time in order to successfully raid. Now, a vast swathe of people do not understand that. Our teenage listeners have probably had their mother tell them to get off. It's like, no, you can't do that. But Mom, I've got to be here at this time. That kind of nonsense. And then, maybe spouses, partners, girlfriends just don't understand it. Other friends in real life don't understand why you're sitting at a computer at a certain time at night for a couple of hours. Why do you think it's so difficult for the general public to get their head around the fact that you have to show up at a certain time in order to take part in a group activity? I mean, are these the same kind of people that show up 3 hours late for a dinner date or whatever, and then wonder why everybody's upset? What's with that?
Yeah, I think that general populace that you're talking about, it's this populace that doesn't really know what this experience is. They look at an experience like this as quote unquote a video game, which I think they still feel like video games have a lot of the old Nintendo, turn it on, pause it, that type of thing. And again, I think they see this experience as that, and it certainly is more than that. And again, I think that's just a part of a sense of ignorance there, that they don't quite understand that there are potentially 24 other people on the other end of that computer counting on their whoever this person is to be there. And yeah, I think that's just something that needs to be communicated, and again, appropriately prioritized by the individual in question. These are, again, how you, as everyone in their life, prioritizes their experiences and their time is certainly each person's prerogative. But I think the fact that that greater community doesn't fully grasp that this is a communal experience, that it is a communal, coordinated, exciting, entertaining, you could even call it some type of sport, I guess you could say, experience that's happening. It's a lot less than just playing Super Mario Brothers. You can't really put it on pause. It's a lot more coordinated and orchestrated than that. So, yeah, absolutely.
So, we've touched upon the fact that raiding is somewhat confusing to the general population at this point, that the vast majority of them do not understand it. Now, you mentioned that you wanted to show a lot of what was going on in-game. Now, this is a bit more of a filmmaker's question for you. How exactly do you intend to show that experience to a uneducated viewer in a way that they can possibly understand and comprehend visually?
Yeah, that's a huge part of this film, and one that I think is, at the moment, probably the most challenging, is trying to orchestrate and execute both two different captures in the game. The cinematic capture, one that actually can easily express and portray the epic feeling of what's going on in a raid as if you were watching a movie. And then the other would be, of course, footage from someone's UI, user interface, so watching them, their actual UI at work. So you're having a juxtaposition of both of those. Now, the ability to capture that and do everything else that I'm trying to accomplish is the complicated one, and certainly does take a level of technology and computer processing and, an elite level of technology to make that happen flawlessly and yet still not compromise someone's rating experience. And so that currently is a challenge that we're trying to overcome and trying to process right now. Of course, the dream of the filmmaker in me would be one that says, man, wouldn't it be great if I could have some kind of autonomous sort of observer mode where I could literally film this raid at work from inside the instance, inside the game engine, and not compromise any raiders' role in the raid or their lag or their any of that. I could actually just capture it from a cinematic perspective from within the game as a free floating kind of camera point. That would be a dream, and of course. That's one that that having that come about is a little tricky. It takes
yes, it can be done. Unfortunately, yeah. Blizzard rather frowns on the way that is done. It's very unfortunate. I think that it could be a relatively reasonable spectator sport. We've seen how popular raiding streams can be. Thousands upon thousands of people. See, TankSpot, who you've been cooperating through all of this, and we'll ask a couple of questions about that a little bit later. We've got some great listener questions surrounding your interaction with TankSpot. Huge amount of people have watched these videos. We're talking about TankSpot videos that are upwards of 500,000 views. That's an absurd number when you think about it. So, what have you been most surprised by so far in the process of creating this movie?
Oh gosh, TB, I think the thing that's most surprised me is the absolute support and interest that exists out there for something like this to take place. I've been, ever since I launched this sort of grassroots fundraising program, which we will probably talk about in a little bit.
But we will.
Ever since I launched this,
don't worry.
Ever since I launched this little fundraising thing, I've just been bombarded by incredible enthusiasm, people desiring to help in whatever way, offering the support of their guild, offering interviews. Come check out what we're doing. Just an incredible outcry of support for this effort, and to me, that's number one. It's incredibly encouraging as an artist or as someone trying to make something happen. Just to feel that support is huge. But then it's also, I think, affirming that for me that this type of dialogue is truly needed. And I'll get incredible emails from people that say, explaining their particular story and why they're really excited that something like this would come about because it would create a better dialogue between this particular aspect in their life. And I think it's a timely piece. I think it's appropriate, and I think it's even something that a lot of people in the world are crying out for to some degree. Just some new sense of dialogue on the subject. that can bring about an awareness, a better understanding.
Excellent.
I should say.
Fantastic. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with, well, the end of my questions and the start of yours. You're listening to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com with our special guest in the studio, Kevin Michael Johnson. We'll be right back after this, folks. Enjoy.